A waiter insulted an old man who couldn't pay for food. It was a cold evening in a busy New York restaurant. The place was full of laughter, clinking glasses, and people enjoying expensive meals. Waiters rushed from table to table, trying to keep up with the crowd. At the corner of the restaurant, the door slowly opened. An old man walked in. He wore a faded coat, slightly torn at the edges. His shoes were dusty, and his hands trembled slightly as he stepped inside. Some customers glanced at him, then quickly looked away. He quietly took a seat at an empty table near the window. A young waiter named Jake noticed him and frowned. Jake was already stressed. Long hours, rude customers, and low tips had made him impatient. Seeing the old man, he assumed the worst. Jake walked over with a forced smile. Sir, this is a high-end restaurant, he said, his tone slightly cold. Are you sure you can afford to eat here? The old man looked up gently, his eyes calm. I'm just hungry, son, he replied softly. Can I see the menu? Jake sighed and dropped the menu on the table. But just don't order something you can't pay for, he muttered. Nearby customers began whispering. Some even chuckled quietly. The old man didn't react. He slowly opened the menu, trying each item carefully. After a few moments, he closed it and looked at Jake again. I'll have the steak and a glass of water. Jake almost laughed. That's the most expensive item on the menu, he said sharply. You sure about that? The old man nodded. Jake rolled his eyes but wrote it down anyway. As Jake walked away, he whispered to another waiter, this guy probably won't even be able to pay. Watch this. Time passed. The food arrived. The old man looked at the plate like it was something special. Slowly, he picked up his fork and began eating. Every bite was calm, almost meaningful, like he hadn't eaten a proper meal in a long time. Some people kept staring, some judged, some simply ignored him. When he finished, he sat quietly, waiting. Jake walked back with the bill, placing it firmly on the table. Here you go, he said, crossing his arms. Let's see how this goes. The old man picked up the bill and nodded. Then he reached into his coat pocket. Jake leaned forward, expecting excuses. Instead, the old man pulled out a clean black card, not just any card, a premium executive card. Jake froze. The old man gently placed it on the table. Will this work? He asked calmly. Jake's face turned pale. He quickly grabbed the card and rushed to the counter. The manager, who had been observing quietly from a distance, looked surprised. They processed the card. Approved. Jake stood there, speechless. But the surprise wasn't over. The manager suddenly straightened his posture, looking closely at the name on the card. His eyes widened. Wait, this name, he whispered. He immediately walked toward the old man. Meanwhile, Jake returned slowly, his attitude completely changed. Sir, your payment is accepted, he said nervously. The old man smiled slightly. Thank you. Just then, the manager arrived at the table. The entire restaurant began to notice. The old man looked up. Yes, he said simply. The manager immediately stood straighter. Ladies and gentlemen, he suddenly announced, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. Please give a moment of respect. The restaurant fell silent. Jake looked confused. The manager continued. This man is the original owner of this restaurant chain. Gasps spread across the room. Jake's heart dropped. The old man looked around quietly. I built this place many years ago, he said calmly. But I stepped away to see how things would run without me. The manager lowered his head. We had no idea you were visiting tonight, sir. The old man's eyes slowly moved toward Jake. Jake couldn't even look up. I didn't come here for luxury, the old man continued. I came to see something more important. Silence filled the room. How people treat others when they think no one is watching. Jake's hands began to shake. None. I'm sorry, sir, he stuttered. I didn't mean. The old man gently raised his hand. Son, he said softly. Respect should never depend on someone's appearance. Jake's eyes filled with regret. The entire restaurant stood still, absorbing every word. After a moment, the old man slowly stood up. He adjusted his old coat. Then he placed a small tip on the table. But it wasn't small. It was generous. Jake looked shocked again. "Everyone deserves a second chance," the old man said quietly. They turned and walked toward the door. This time, no one ignored him. Every single person in the restaurant stood up. Hey, in silence, in respect. Jake stood frozen, realizing something he would never forget. That night didn't just change his job. It changed his life. Moral: never judge anyone by their appearance, because respect reveals who you truly are.